So it's time for episode 3, eating and voiding. Although this may not be a topic that seems too popular, it's a really important thing in terms of how you get through your care and treatment here in Cancer Center. So eating right is obviously important. It's always important, but it's even more important when you're going through cancer treatment. And it's also hard when you're going through cancer treatment. Sometimes you may lose your appetite because of the treatment, or you may feel nauseous or have other symptoms. And so that's something we know up front, and these are just some tips to help you get through that process. So you do want to put fuel in the tank when you're going through treatment because your body needs the energy and food is the fuel. It is true sometimes it doesn't feel or taste good to eat, and sometimes the emphasis is more on it tastes like fuel than it tastes like food. But that's okay. That won't last, and it does get better as you get better. But in the beginning, sometimes you just have to feel like I'm just doing this it's like taking a medicine. Taking the food and the nutrition is just real important. So don't worry if the eating's not enjoyable while you're in treatment. That'll come back after you're done. Lots of people say, well, I used to really enjoy, steak tips and green beans, etc., and now I don't enjoy anything. But if you just think about it as it's another way to help your body get stronger, and I don't have to enjoy it, I just have to get it in there. That's what my body needs. Sometimes that's a helpful attitude. It is true that sometimes your taste may change over time, and so it's perfectly fine, and we encourage people to try different kinds of foods and different kinds of seasonings. Sometimes people say their taste buds feel a little deadened, and they actually like spicier food than they normally would. Other people, it's just the opposite. So feel free to experiment and, let us know what seems to be working. Also, if you don't feel like eating, it's okay. You don't have to force yourself to eat. But we do want to make sure that if you can, try to be on a somewhat routine schedule of eating when you do feel up to it. One of the ways to do that is to try grazing. Now, grazing is not meant to be diminishing in any way. It's really just this idea that if you eat smaller meals more often, it's easier on your body to tolerate the food. So one of the things that I think about is like eating appetizers, because your body may not feel up to eating a full meal. Even the idea or the sight of seeing a full plate of food like you would normally eat may make you feel kind of sick to your stomach. That's not uncommon. So thinking about it just sort of in the appetizer framework, that mini quiches, cheese and crackers, pigs in a blanket, my favorite. These are all things that you can buy at a grocery store or one of the big box stores in large portions, and then just take out 1 or 2 little mini quiches or pigs in a blanket and eat those. And then a couple hours later, come back and have some other kind of little appetizer. The idea is that your body, in the end, doesn't care whether it gets all its nutrition in one lump sum, in 3 square meals a day, or in lots of little mini meals throughout the day. It's also true that you can add calories and protein to the meals you're already having with nutritional supplements or protein powders. Your grocery store clerk will direct you to the aisle where all that good stuff is. And we also have nutrition consultation here at the Cancer Center to help give you more specific ideas of how to go about doing that. Sometimes people feel like all they can get down is a Ensure or some other kinds of liquid nutrition. And that's good, but it packs a lot of punch into a small can. And people sometimes think that the small can is just like any other can of liquid to drink, but it's so packed with nutrients and other good healthy stuff that it can make you feel really full even after just drinking a half a can. So one of the ways to get around that is just pour it in a regular water bottle and then fill it the rest with ice and then just sip it throughout the day. And if you're watching TV, you can have the routine of just sipping every commercial break. If you do that, you'll polish off 2 or 3 cans a day, no problem. But that's the idea, is that Cold liquid sometimes helps going down the throat if your throat is sore. Taking small sips, that's another way to get it in there without getting your body overwhelmed. You also may find that if you have your treatment, the chemotherapy or the radiation treatment, it sometimes can help to eat a small meal before you come in, so you know you get some nutrition into your body before the treatment starts. If you try to fill up and eat a really big meal before you come in, sometimes you feel overfull, and that just adds to the nausea. The other thing, of course, is trying foods that are easy on the stomach, and this is something that sort of like, this is what my mom said all those years ago, and you know what? She was right. Think about comfort foods that have settled your stomach in the past. Ginger ale, bland food, dry crackers or toast if your stomach's really upset. These are all things that will help you feel like at least you're doing something and you're getting some nutrition into your body. One of the other things about nausea is if you wear loose-fitting clothing and comfort clothing, then you won't feel like your stomach's too bound up tight. So it's totally fine from a fashion sense to come in wearing comfortable clothes. It will help with reducing the nausea as you go through treatment. It's also true that if you're feeling overstimulated, too much light or too much noise, the infusion team can help you find a quieter space. Sometimes highly stimulating sights or sounds or smells or other sensations can challenge your overall feeling of being settled, and that can magnify nausea sometimes. The nurses are really good and they're experts at helping people manage this. And so if you're on an anti-nausea medication, which you often will be, and it's not working, we want to know about it, because there's lots of other options that you can try, and it may take a few tries to find the right cocktail that works for you. So don't hesitate to say, hey, it worked the first day, but it doesn't seem to be working now, or it's making me too tired, or any other things that kind of getting in your way. The more we know, the more we can help. The other thing in terms of nausea is if you bring distractions with you on your treatment day, or when the treatments are the worst, the symptoms are the worst, even when you're at home, it's okay to distract yourself. If your mind is only thinking about the nausea, it's just going to kind of magnify it, make it seem worse. If your mind is occupied with other things, then it doesn't feel so bad. That may not be a perfect solution, but it's a little piece of things that kind of help. And then lastly, don't be so hard on yourself. If you can't eat at any one time, it's okay. As we talked about earlier, you're going to be grazing, and so if your body doesn't want to eat something in the moment, it's okay that you can pass on that little mini meal and get the next one. Now, diarrhea is another symptom that people sometimes feel they have to deal with, and that's something we want to also help people think about, and you can be proactive. So there are some foods that kind of aggravate diarrhea. So for some people, there's milk and dairy products which may relate to being sort of lactose intolerant, even just temporarily. Sometimes spicy foods can exacerbate it. There's research to show that alcohol can sometimes exacerbate it. Caffeine-containing products like coffee, tea, or colas, or even chocolate can sometimes magnify diarrhea. High fiber and high fat foods such as raw vegetables or salads, fried foods, or even creamy foods can sometimes do it. Certain fruit juices like prune juice or orange juice, or even highly concentrated nutritional supplements like we just talked about, can cause diarrhea. So if you look at this list, you think everything that we've talked about that I should try may cause diarrhea. And the truth is that it's different for everybody. So you try some things, and if it makes it better, that's great. If it makes it worse, obviously don't do it. Also, tell our nurses that you're having those symptoms, and they can help with the doctors come up with a better solution. There are treatments for diarrhea that make it easier. So if you are on laxatives or stool softeners, or even drugs that make your bowels work better, like Reglan, that's important, and it's really a balancing act. We don't want you to be constipated, but we also don't want you to go too much. If you do find you're having a bout of diarrhea, foods that are helpful are mostly what we call a BRAT diet, B-R-A-T, which stands for bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast. And that kind of bland foods can settle your stomach and makes it a little easier reducing the diarrhea. Also, fluids that contain water, salt, and sugar, like Gatorade or broth or flat sodas without caffeine, like ginger ale, those can also help reduce the impact of diarrhea. It's also true that diarrhea may come and go, so you'll learn as you go through the process what's working and what's not. So, speaking of constipation, that's defined technically as not having a bowel movement more than 3 times a week. And constipation stools are usually hard, dry, they're small in size, and they're difficult to get out. So some people obviously find it painful to have a bowel movement and often experience straining or bloating and then cessation of a full bowel. If that happens, don't force it. It's not good to strain yourself in that way. And if you are having these symptoms, some of the things that were causing diarrhea may help reduce the constipation. So you can tell it's kind of a balancing act between the two. So normal stool elimination can vary widely. For some people it's 3 times a day, and for other people it's 3 times a week. You know your bowel patterns better than anybody. So if you know what your normal pattern is and then you see it changing, that's something for us to know about. The more you tell us, the more we can help. And that's a big part of, just in general, helping us help you manage these symptoms.